So last chapter we have seen introduction to patterns, in which we saw what is pattern and design pattern, then what makes a pattern, describing a design pattern, pattern categories, organizing the catalog, patterns and software architecture. And now we will start the fifth chapter, study of design patterns. Introduction. In last chapter we have studied basics of design pattern. Now here we will study design patterns in detail along with its intent, applicability, participants, structure and its implementation in Java. We had seen that design patterns are classified as creational patterns, structural patterns and behavioral patterns. Now we will see subtypes of these design patterns and implement it. Then next point is creational patterns. Creational design patterns are concerned with the way of creating objects. These design patterns are used when decision must be made at the time of instantiation of a class. That means what? Creating an object of a class. You are aware that. Sometimes the nature of the object must be changed according to the nature of the program. In such a cases, we must get the help of creational design patterns to provide more general and flexible approach. There are different types of creational patterns. We will see few of these patterns and implementation. Next point is singleton patterns. Singleton pattern says that just define a class that has only one instance and provide a global point of access to it. Or you can say a class must ensure that only single instance should be created and single object can be used by all other classes. In which intent, here ensure a class only has one instance and provide a global point of access to it. Applicability, when to use this pattern. Applicability means when we will use this pattern. There must be exactly one instance of a class and it must be accessible to clients from a well-known access point. And the second point is when the sole instance should be extensible by subclassing and clients should be able to use an extended instance without modifying their code. Participants defines an instance operation that lets clients access its unique instance, and here again the may be responsible for creating its own unique instance. Here the structure is given of singleton here, so singleton is given here. Then static instance, singleton operator, get singleton data, and here static instance to return unique instance. And then here singleton pattern demo. First here main, you know the void also. It asks singleton object in which instance, that is singleton object, and here single object, then get instant single object and show message void, and here it returns, that is ask returns to here instance and single object. Then next is the collaborations. Client access a singleton instance solely through singleton's instance operation, and here we will see the points. First, control access to sole instance. Because the singleton class encapsulate its sole instance, it can have strict control over how and when client access it. Second point is reduce namespace. The singleton pattern is an improvement over global variables. It avoids polluting the namespace with global variables that store sole instance. Third, permits refinement of operations and representations. The singleton class may be subclass and it's easy to configure an application with an instance of this extended class. You can configure the application with an instance of the class you need at runtime. And the fourth point is it permits a variable number of instances. The pattern makes it easy to change your mind and allow more than one instance of the singleton class. Moreover, you can use the same approach to control the number of instances that the application use. Only the operation that grants access to the singleton instance needs to change. And the last point is it saves memory because the object is not created at each request. only single instance is reused again and again. Then implementation. Here, to create the singleton class, we need to have static member of class, private constructor and static factory method, in which we will see one by one. First one is the static member. It gets memory only once because of static. It contains the instance of the singleton class. And second is private constructor. It will prevent to instance the singleton class from outside the class. And third one is static factory method. This provides the global point of access to the singleton object and returns the instance to the caller. There are two forms of singleton design patterns. First one is early instantiation, here creation of instance at load time. And the second point is lazy instantiation, here creation of instance when required, in which the first is early instantiation of singleton pattern. In such a case, we create the instance of the class at the time of declaring the static data member. So, instance of class is created at the time of class loading. Here some examples are here, and we will see the example in which the programming part is also given. So, here remember that whatever the programming part or the whatever the syntax, that we will see when we cover the theory from this chapter, and then all the syntax and the programming part we will see at the last. Here, if your singleton class is not using a lot of resources, this is the approach to use. But in most of the scenarios, singleton classes are created for resources such as file system, database connection. We should avoid the instantiation until unless client calls the getInstance method. Also, this method does not provide any option for exception handling. Then the second is lazy instantiation of singleton pattern. In such a case, we create the instance of the class in synchronized method or synchronized block. So, instance of the class is created when it is required, and here whatever the again programming part we will see later on, but here to implement work fine in case of the single threaded environment, but when it comes to multi-threaded system, it can cause issue of multiple thread or insert the if condition at the same time. It will destroy the singleton pattern and both threads will get the different instances of the singleton class. Next point is factory method. A factory pattern says that just define an interface or abstract class for creating an object, but let the subclasses decide which class to instantiate. Or you can say subclasses are responsible to create the instance of the class. It is also known as virtual constructor, in which intent define an interface for creating an object, but the subclass decides which class to instantiate. Factory method lets a class defer instantiation to subclasses, in which the applicability we will see one by one. First, when a class does not know the class of object it must create. Second, when a class wants its subclasses to specify the objects to be created. Third, when the parents class, or you can say the parent classes, choose the creation of objects to its subclasses. Next is participants, in which product define the interface of objects the factory method creates. Then concrete product here implements the product interface. Then the creators declares the factory method which returns an object of type product. Creator may also define a default implementation of the factory method that returns a default concrete product object, or in case may call the factory method to create a product object. Then concrete creator which overrides the factory method to return an instance of a concrete product. Here the structure, in which we will see here concrete product goes to product, and then here creator. Again here the creator and concrete creator. In concrete creator factory method, and here returns new concrete product, and product equal to factory method goes to again factory method and this is a operation. So here creator. The next is the collaborations. Creator relies on its subclasses to define the factory method so that it returns an instance of the appropriate concrete product. Consequences. Factory methods allow the subclasses to choose the type of objects to create. It promotes loose coupling by eliminating the need to bind application specific classes into your code. The code only deals with the product interface, therefore it can work with any user defined concrete product classes. And here disadvantages of factory method is that clients might have to subclass the creator class just to create a particular concrete product object. Subclassing is fine when the client has to subclass the creator class anyway, but otherwise the client now must deal with another point of evaluation. Here are two additional consequences of the factory method patterns. First one is provides hooks for subclasses, in which creating objects inside a class with a factory method is always more flexible than creating an object directly. Factory method gives subclasses a hook for providing an extended version of an object. And the second is connects parallel class hierarchies. Clients can find factory method useful, especially in the case of parallel class hierarchies. Parallel class hierarchies result when a class delegates some of its responsibilities to a separate class. This state, or you can say that this state is needed only during manipulation. Then the implementation. Consider we will see here some issues when applying the factory method patterns, in which first is two major varieties. The two main varieties of the factory method patterns are, in which first one is when the creator class is an abstract class and does not provide an implementation for the factory method it declares. And the second is when the creator is concrete class and provides a default implementation for the factory method. It's also possible to have an abstract class that defines a default implementation, but this is less common. And the second one from the where we apply the factory method, second is parameterized factory methods. Allow the factory method create multiple kinds of products. The factory methods takes a parameter that identifies the kinds of object to create. All objects the factory method creates will share the product interface. And the third one is language specific variants and issues, in which different languages lend themselves to other interesting variations and conditions. Fourth, using templates to avoid subclassing. Here, potential problem with factory method is that they might force you to subclass just to create the appropriate product objects. And the fifth is naming conventions. It's good practice to use naming convention that makes it clear you are using factory method. Then next point is abstract factory. Abstract factory pattern says that just define an interface or abstract class for creating families of related means, or you can say the dependent objects, related objects, but without specifying their concrete subclasses. Abstract factory lets a class returns a factory of classes. So this is the reason that abstract factory pattern is one level or you can say the one level higher than the factory pattern. And abstract factory pattern is also known as the KIT. Intent: provide an interface for creating families of related or dependent objects without specifying their concrete classes. Here applicability, in which first is when a system needs to be independent of how its products are created, composed and represented. Then second is when a system should be configured with one of multiple families of products. Third, when a family of related product object is designed to be used together, then this constraint needs to be enforced. Fourth, when you want to provide a class library of products and you want to reveal just their interfaces, not their implementations. Next is the participants. We'll see one by one. Abstract factory declares an interface for operations that create abstract product objects. Second is concrete factory. Here implements the operation to create concrete product objects. And the third is abstract product. Declares an interface for a type of product object. And the fourth is concrete product, in which A defines a product object to be created by the corresponding concrete factory, and the second is implements the abstract product interface. And the fifth participant is client. It uses only interfaces declared by abstract factory and abstract product classes. Structure. Here the abstract factory, in which create product A, create product B, and then it goes to concrete factory 1, concrete factory 2. Again in concrete factory 1, create product A, create product B, and same in concrete factory 2 also, create product A, create product B. And there here the clients are there, which goes to again the abstract factory. We'll see the clients. Here abstract product A, again in which product A1, product A2, and this again abstract product B, in which product B1, product B2, and then here client to abstract product A and client to again abstract product B, and here again it tends to concrete factory 1, concrete factory 2, which is the abstract factory, in which create product A and create product B. Collaborations. Normally a single instance of a concrete factory classes is created at runtime. This concrete factory creates product objects having a particular implementation. To create different product objects, client should use a different concrete factory. And the second collaboration is abstract factory defers creation of product objects to its concrete factory subclasses. Then consequences. The abstract factory pattern has some benefits and liabilities. We'll see one by one. First, it isolates concrete classes. Means the abstract factory patterns helps you control the classes of objects that an application creates, because a factory encapsulates the responsibility and the process of creating product objects. It isolates clients from implementation classes. Clients manipulate instances through their abstract interfaces. Product class names are isolated in the implementation of the concrete factory. They do not appear in client code. Second, it makes exchanging product families easily. The class of concrete factory appears only once in an application, that is where it is instantiated. This makes it easy to change the concrete factory and application uses. It can use different product configuration simple by changing the concrete factory. Because an abstract factory creates a complete family of products, the whole product family changes at once. And the third is, it promotes consistency among products. When product objects in a family are designed to work together, it is important that an application use objects from only one family at a time. Abstract factory makes this easy to enforce. And the fourth is, supporting new kinds of products is difficult. Extending abstract factories to produce new kinds of products, it isn't easy. That's because the abstract factory interface fixes the set of products that can be created. Supporting new kind of products requires extending the factory interface, which involves changing the abstract factory class and all of its subclass. Next is implementation. Here, first is factories as singleton. An application typically needs only one instance of a concrete factory per product family. So it's usually best implemented as a singleton. And the second is creating the products. Abstract factory only declares an interface for creating products. It is up to concrete product subclasses to actually create them. The most common way to do this is to define factory method for each product. A concrete factory will specify its products by overriding the factory method for each. While this implementation is simple, it requires a new concrete factory subclasses for each product family, even if the product families differ only slightly. And the third is defining extensible factories. Abstract factory usually defines a different operations for each kind of product it can produce. The kinds of products are included in the operation signature, or you can say so it is encodes in the operation signatures. Adding a new kind of product requires changing the abstract factory interface and all the classes that depends on it. Next is structural patterns. Structural design patterns are concerned with how classes and objects can be composed to form larger structures. The structural design pattern simply the structure by identifying the relationship. These patterns focus on how the classes inherits from each other and how they are composed from other classes. So we will see one by one here the structure patterns. First is adapter here. Adapter pattern works as a bridge between two incompatible interfaces. It combines the capability of two independent interfaces. This pattern involves a single class which is responsible to join functionalities of independent or incompatible interfaces. Intent: convert the interface of class into another interface client expect. Adapter lets classes work together that couldn't otherwise because of incompatible interfaces. Applicability: when you want to use an existing class and its interface does not match the one you need. Then the second is when you want to create a reusable class that cooperates with unrelated to unforeseen classes, that is classes that don't necessarily have compatible interfaces. And the next is when you need to use several existing subclasses, but it's impractical to adapt their interface by subclassing every one. An adapter, or you can say the object adapter, can adapt the interface of its parent class. Then participants. First one is target. Defines the domain specific interface that client uses. Second is client. Collaborates with object conforming to the target interface. Third is adaptee. Defines an existing interface that needs adapting. And the adapter. Adapt the interface of adaptee to the target interface. Structure. A class adapter uses multiple inheritance to adapt one interface to another. Here we will see client to target, here the request is there, and then adapter. Again here request to specific request, and adaptee specific request, again here implement to adapter and specific request. And again here the collaborations. Clients call operations on an adapter instance. In turn, the adapter calls adaptee operations that carry out the request. Consequences. Class and object adapters have different consequences, in which a class adapter first adapts adaptee to target by committing to a concrete adapter class. As a result, a class adapter won't work when we want to adapt a class and all its subclasses. Second is adapter overrides some of adaptee's behavior since adapter is a subclass of adaptee. And the third is introduces only one object and no additional pointer in direction is needed to get to the adaptee. An object adapter. Here a single adapter works with many adaptees, that is the adaptee itself and all of its subclasses. The adapter can also add functionality of all adaptees at once. And the second is it makes harder to override adaptee behavior. It will require subclassing. Adaptee and making adapter refer to the subclass rather than the adaptee itself. Other issues here. First, how much adapting does adapter do? So we will see some other issues which consider when using the adapter patterns. And here the first is how much adapting does adapter do? Adapters vary in the amount of work they do to adapt adaptee to the target interface. The amount of work adapter does depend on how similar the target interface is to adaptees. Second is pluggable adapter. A class is more reusable when you minimize the assumptions other classes must make to use it. By building interface adaptation into a class, you eliminate the assumption that other classes see the same interface. Put another way, interface adaptation lets us incorporate our class into existing systems that might accept different interfaces to the class. And the third is using two-way adapters to provide transparency. A potential problem with adapters is that they aren't transparent to all clients. An adapted object no longer conforms to the adaptive interface, so it can't be used as is wherever an adaptive object can. Two-way adapters can provide such transparency. They are usual when two different clients need to view an object differently. Implementation. Implementing the class adapters in C++. In C++, adapter would be a subtype of target but not adaptive. And the second is pluggable adapters. To find a narrow interface for adaptive, that is the smallest subset of operations that leads us to adaptation. A narrow interface consisting of only a couple of operations is easier to adapt than an interface with dozen of operations. The narrow interface leads to three implementation approaches. First one is using abstract operation, second is using delegate objects, third is parameterized adapters. So here some implementing adapters will see some issues which are needed to taken care of.